Good morning, Mashi.
Good evening, Dennis.
I've picked a quote today that is pertinent because it's relatively timely, but I also think it's especially pertinent to you, of all people that I know.
Oh, I swear to God.
Okay,
I know.
well,
I know the
I know you're
source.
pre-offended.
It's going to be no time for love, Dr. Jones.
No, it's not. It's not a short ranch quote. No. Oh my God. No. It is from the best Indiana Jones movie. Indiana Jones, the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Awful movie.
I haven't seen it.
It's
And
bad.
I
It's
grew
bad.
up loving Indiana Jones. And my buddy Graham, his favorite movie of all time is Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like, I watched a lot of Indy when I was a kid. I was so excited for this movie. And then I kind of missed it. And then I heard all the reviews. And I was like, ooh, maybe sit this one out, Mosh.
Well, apparently Dial of Destiny is no better, but we'll see. No, the quote is from, I think it's when he reunites with Marion, and she's like, "Oh man, the years have not been kind to you." And he says, "It's not the years, honey, it's the mileage." And I want to get your take on that. As a Masha, you are the most youthful man for your age I've ever seen in my entire life. The podcast will explode the day you drop the skincare routine. But I wanted to get your take on depth of life versus length of life.
I don't think it's true.
You don't think it's true? I mean, look, time makes fools of us all, right? And you can get unlucky in any myriad of ways.
I mean, I guess in Indy's case, it's really kind of rough going mileage.
Getting punched and bitten by snakes and jumping out of airplanes and stuff.
I think, one of the things I always say to John, who's only a year older than me, but I think if most people see us, they'll think there's quite a much larger gap. He's also just a big hairy monster. Is my healthcare routine, the supplements I take, working out, many times twice a day. It's all about just trying to bulletproof my body for age. And I think that does put mileage on there. Like in terms of mileage, I'm literally, like, Claire and I have this stairs routine. And I think I do like a mile on stairs, a day, 5 days a week, during the week. We skipped today, which is funny that I even mentioned it today. We skipped today.
Those are the best days to brag about it.
I know, right? So I guess in a sense he's right. It is the mileage, because it's this type of mileage. It's what kind of miles are you putting on your body. Me, one of my influences, because I grew up, I was quite overweight when I was younger, quite overweight as a young kid, and I didn't go to a gym for the first time until I was in college, like my freshman year in college, and I had massively unhealthy habits, massively American habits. I'll say I had fast food, like, as a kid, I had fast food like 3 or 4 times a week. Maybe even more. There was a Taco Bell right down the block from my high school, right? I would save my lunch money. We just go there because they had 29-cent tacos. And that puts a lot of mileage on your body. So you know what? I take it all back. I took Indy a little too figuratively. It is the mileage. And it's really the type of mileage. It's the kind of miles you put on there because, again, ironically, when we talk about just physical miles, I dare say you and I have traveled far more than the average human being.
Definitely. You definitely. But I would say me as well, honestly. Certainly more than the average, specifically American. Americans appear to be extremely poorly traveled overall.
It's bizarre. Like, there are people I've met who are like, you haven't been on a plane. I'm like, what?
That's crazy. Like, I understand. I do a little bit understand Americans who, like, don't get a passport and never leave the States, because it is wild that, like, California and Seattle and, like, Arizona and all the way down towards, like, New Mexico and Alaska and New York are all those biomes are in the same nation. That is.
And what about Hawaii?
Even Hawaii, exactly. That's true. Even Hawaii, yeah.
And I feel like you left out
Florida,
this whole, swampy. I mean, I don't know if you said DC, the swampy, like, Louisiana,
Louisiana.
DC,
yeah, exactly.
Like, it's just,
or Florida.
It is bizarre that it is all one country.
You do need to get on a plane to go to Hawaii, though. I guess you do need to go to Alaska as well, technically. You take
you need a plane to get on. I mean, I guess you could drive to all these places, but by God, why would you?
Well, that's the thing. I think there's, and I agree, like, traveling. So, I mean, we mentioned depth of life, and yeah, right. You were talking about health and physical fitness and stuff, but also richness. Something that I'm trying to, like, wrap my head around is the idea that by making varied and, like, unique and interesting memories, that is probably the most effective way to lengthen your life. And it's by making moments into moments that matter, rather than, that's like taking a bunch of supplements, yada yada, trying to, like, have you seen this people going on about Brian Johnson, that billionaire who's trying to, like, reverse his aging with, like, blood transfusions from his son and everything, all this crazy stuff?
No.
and he has a bunch of he spends billions on it, and he spent like a litany of tests, and like yes, he's 47 or whatever, but like physiologically he's actually only 44, and it's like okay, but like he hasn't like seen red meat or anything that isn't like a ground up legume, and eats in like years. He like does all these crazy therapies. He takes his son's blood, like wild stuff. And it's but even that is only shaved off like 2 or 3 years.
I mean, he's done. I think that's one of those like classic. He's not living. Like living in fear of death is failing to live. Right. And in that sense, Indiana is quite right. Like the mileage is so important. I don't think that where I differ, where I do massively agree with what you're saying. Life is to be lived. There are experiences to have there. I am certainly someone who would rather, take the money for a Porsche and put it into a massive vacation, right, and experience that. Like, let's go to the Maldives. Let's go do that and have that memory.
But there are other people that would get more joy out of looking at the Porsche in the driveway, not even driving it.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, those are just different people.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just, me, I'm the guy who's like, let's go blow 300 on a steak dinner. And even though I don't eat steak right now, let's go blow 300 on a steak dinner rather than, let's put that away for a rainy day. It has earned me quite a reputation with my mother. It's like, you're always looking for a good time. It's just funny because she's always like, you're always looking for a good time. And as a kid, I used to think that was a bad thing. And I'm like, yeah, I am looking for a depth of experience. I'm not looking to, do a bunch of blow and go party at the club. That's never been my scene. But I do want to experience life and kind of squeeze that all the juice out of that fruit. I think that the other part of it that's really important though is that alone isn't enough. I don't think. Well, for me, actually, wow, that was very much for me. That alone is not enough. You need to have a raison d'être. You need to have a reason to do these things, a purpose, and purpose, I think, is what drives longevity. Purpose in what you're doing. Like this billionaire you mentioned who's trying to lengthen his life, he has a purpose. Say whatever you want about him, he has a purpose, and that's probably very much going to aid him in extending his life. Too many of us have no real reason.
Look,
you don't have to have some grand reason. Your reason can be, I'm in love. I want to spend as much time as I can with this person, or I have children. I need to be here for my children. That is the grandest goal, I think, is like, I have children. I have to be part of their life. And really my purpose is to be there. Like my mother always says to me, I want to hold my grandchildren. You've got to have a reason to keep going. And if you don't have that reason,
Mr. Jones.
No time for love, Dr. Jones. If you don't have a reason, to keep going, autopilot will only take you so far. And there's all these studies that show that, right? People retire and in 6 months, boom, they're dead. Because
often like old couples, like when one of them dies, the other one very, very quickly follows. Very often.
I ever tell you about my buddy Pat's grandfather?
No.
He would say goddamn every other goddamn word. And he came into our lives. He moved to the area into where we grew up. I think we were juniors in high school. And he was a vet, fought in Vietnam. I think fought in, maybe it might have been World War II. Actually, what am I saying? World War II is when he fought in, and was getting up there and had given up drinking and stopped smoking and all this stuff because his doc said it was bad for him. His wife dies. The day his wife dies, he stops by the liquor store, buys a packet of cigarettes and a fifth of whiskey. And
I admire that.
It was a life lesson, because his mom, these were his maternal grandparents, was like, "What are you doing, Dad?" And he was like, "All my friends are dead. Everybody I knew in my life is dead, and now your mother's
around
gone."
For
And he's like, "I did all this because I wanted to be there for her, and she's gone now. I'm going to enjoy life." And I mean, I'm not suggesting that you go out there and smoke and drink, but if that's what you're going to do to enjoy life, or you made those sacrifices, but the whole purpose behind those sacrifices, those changes is gone, do what you want. So the mileage needs to be the mileage you want, whether it's mileage in a Porsche or mileage that takes you to the Maldives. Mm-hmm. You need to live that life. What I don't like about this billionaire is this idea of lengthening life for the sake of lengthening life. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things like, would you ever want to be a vampire? I'm like, would I want to be a vampire in my 30-year-old body? Sure. Do I want to live forever but keep aging the way the Knight did in like The Last Crusade? Remember him?
Right. Speaking of Indiana Jones, no, you want Tom Cruise in Interview with the Vampire, right? You want a stat, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and likewise, you wouldn't want to be what's her face, the child. Remember the
Yes,
little?
that's
You wouldn't
true.
want to,
Kristen Dunst, yeah.
you don't want to be stuck, forever as a child. So it's like this whole thing is like, would you want to be immortal? Now, frankly, immortality does not interest me because I do agree with Pat's grandfather. Like, I don't want to be in a place where all my
finality is what gives it purpose. I agree.
I don't even know if finality gives it the purpose I want. I want to enjoy the adventures of the world with the friends I have. I don't want to make new ones because that depthness, that richness of I recently reconnected with this random guy I knew in high school. I met him. We sat next to each other in Japanese class my senior year in high school. He was a freshman. I was a senior. He posted on Instagram, "Hey, check me out. I work at this cigar bar that's literally around the block from my place. I've been there many times." I was like, "Robbie's there?" And it's one of those, I hadn't seen him I graduated from high school in 97. I haven't seen him since 1997. Okay. And it's so funny. We looked, he's 41, I'm 44. I walk in there and he's like, "Hey, can I help you?" And I look at him and I'm like, "Hey, Robbie, it's Mashi Scanlan." He's like, and by the time I say it's Mashi Scanlan, he's walking towards like, "I know who you are." Huge hug. We sat there. He bought me a cigar. We just talked. And it's just like, I'm not gonna make those connections like that. It's not gonna happen anymore. And that's okay. I'm gonna make different ones. I'm gonna make, it's gonna take longer to develop, but those high school and like you and I don't know that I'm gonna do work like we did before. I'm not gonna be in the trenches like that anymore. Not in the same way.
I mean, it's funny you mentioned high school. Maybe we'll talk about it, but there's that quote at the end of Stand By Me where he's like, "I've never had friends like that before or since." Like those friends you make, especially in your teenage years when you're trying to figure out who you are as a person, you get transported right back to that when you meet them 30 years later or whatever.
It's like not a day has passed. And I don't know that seeing the world and even now I'm starting to feel a little bit a fish out of water with technology a lot of times. Where I'm just like, oh, like great example was, I think I mentioned this to you. I was at dinner with my brother Cam's 10 years younger than I am. Everyone at the table is like 10 to 14 years younger than I am. And I was like, yeah, I'm listening to Audible a lot these days. I really like that when I'm out, versus podcasts. And it comes back up. I'm like, I'm really into these books on tape. And Cameron just stops and looks at me and he goes, "Books on tape, Mosh?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "You're really showing your age." I'm like, "Oh crap," Or likewise, Claire was getting ready for this wedding reception. She's like, "Oh yeah, G has this whole playlist planned out," and I'm like, "Oh, there's no DJ. You're just gonna play that CD the whole time?" And she's like, "What?" And I'm like, So these things are happening, and it's not even like I'm like,
you got to get with the times. You got a CD switcher, man. She got 6 of them lined up. It's all good.
I used to have one of those, man. So it's I already feeling that I start to understand, time does pass us by and technology is marvelous. And I'm blessed to work I think in a youthful industry. And marketing in particular, I think exposes you to a lot of youthful things, but how we live life and the scars that show on us and the badges of the mileage we have, they're all there. And where I think that Indiana is probably being way more revealing and poignant than probably he means to be is it's not just when he says it's the mileage, baby, your body, your life, your, to get that Californian energy in here, your energy, your aura, all of that mileage does come through and it shows the kind of life you lived. Right. Like right now I have really smooth hands. When I used to wash dishes and paint houses, I was full of calluses. Right. I have some like gym calluses, but not the way I used to. And it's just funny, right? Like that's a very, very telling way to show, when you're working with your hands, you just develop calluses.
Different kind of mileage. Yeah.
Yeah. You develop all these, like when I was painting houses, I was like screwing and unscrewing a lot of things. And I had this weird muscle right here that you would see pop out from like using a screwdriver all day.
You don't use in normal day-to-day life for it.
Exactly. Yeah. Not to that extent. And so it's true. That mileage does show on you and where it can show externally, it can also show internally when you look into someone's eyes and you can kind of see where they are. Are they panicked? Are they anxious? Are they depressed? Are they just calm? They have that energy, that little twinkle, that little light that says, "Oh, wow, okay, maybe there's something more here that I need to look into." All of that is true. So I started off disagreeing with Indiana and now
full circle. Well, Mash, I hope you go out into your day-to-day and don't just put some miles on, put the right kind of miles on.
Yeah, exactly. Remember, everyone, your mileage may vary, but you got to make the best of every mile.
Very nice.